Friday night. You know what that means. The bar is open. I'm so excited. I don't know. I could be like the calmest, most mellow person right before the show, but as soon as the video goes, it like
turns into a geek.
Charges me. What?
He's a geek.
I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. I love it. I gotta figure out what's going on with my camera because it's such high contrast. I don't like it.
It is.
I don't like it. Hello everyone. Hello, Robert and Shauna, Bob and Diane. There's a bunch of people coming in. I love it. But we have a guest tonight. I can't wait to get to it because it's a returning guest, which we don't have many of those because I don't know, nobody wants to come back. No, I'm kidding. I can't wait to talk to her because she's a good friend of ours. And but before we get to our guest, our awesome guest, we have to go over the rules because what is life without rules? This right here. That's what it is. All right. Chaos. Kenny's chaotic skeptical help bar. Something like that. All right. So rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask questions. Except tonight, we just asked that you ask questions, but we're going to do the Q&A on the second hour. That's all. That's standard procedure with a guest. Rule number 2, I'm going to try and count with my fingers again and not mess it up. Rule number 2 is that I don't know everything. And I mean, I try. I keep trying every week to learn everything, but it just, it's just out of reach. But that also goes to the guest because the guest doesn't know everything all the time. So just be patient with us and understand that we don't bullshit. That's all. Rule number 3 is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here, and that's be nice. So you can be in the chat room, you can debate, you can discuss, you can disagree. That's all cool. Just don't devolve into name calling and harassment and, mom jokes and stuff like that. Don't do that. I mean, save it to afterwards. Yeah, Bob, I'm looking at you. Rule number 4 is if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat room throughout the entire night. That's cool. Donna will be keeping watching them, but do us a favor and put a Q in front of it, a capital Q. That lets her see it really quick, and then she can start it and save it for later, and we will get to them after the pee break, which I got a new pee break commercial coming up. I know that was the wrong place to pause. That was the wrong place. But no, I changed it up because some of the commercials were out of date and old, and so I did a simple one so that you don't have to watch. So with that, how come you didn't follow Melanie's suggestion of wearing pajamas tonight? How do you know I don't have pajamas on? How do you know? How do you know, Bob? Damn it, Bob.
It's too cold here, Bob. We have to walk from the house.
Yeah, I actually got sweatpants on. My
It's
Darth
cold.
Vader sweatpants. That's right. So actually, I think they are pajamas.
If we were in the house, it'd be different.
Yeah. So rule number 5 is the best rule of all, and that's drink up. If you want to, you don't have to. You don't have to drink alcohol. I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm drinking just juice, tea. We make fun of Patrick. Sure. All right. So let me switch to my awesome special guest thing and bring on my special guest. Hello, Melanie.
Hi,
There you go. How are you?
I'm so good. You have the best show. I'm so excited to be here.
Really? That's good.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Why? Tell me, why is it the best show?
I'm not just saying this to kiss your ass. Like, I really think this is a fun show. It's like such a great idea for a show. And like Donna is in the back being awesomer. And
Awesomer. Wait, awesomer than me? Or just awesomer in general? I think that's me. Yeah, I see what's going on here.
oh, Donna's pretty great.
Yeah, she is pretty great. And she takes care of the background pretty good. When we start getting them Russian adult links popping into the chat room, she's quick on them. Well, oh, and she's awesome because she went down to Philly for a couple days and brought me back more Wawa tea. So I have my special thing, and I love it.
Yeah, and she's not sleeping right now after driving all day.
Yeah, she was driving all day. And I feel bad, but I got my tea. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
All right. So you are back. You are back. First time we had you on, Thinking is Power, that your website was just taking off, right? I think you had just started and it wasn't that old, but you were getting into it. And then like you go away for a few weeks and all of a sudden you are this science rock star, like just exploded and you're everywhere. I see it everywhere. And it's like, holy crap. Wow. Where do I get some of that?
I think holy crap too, because I can't. I'm just in shock. Actually, I was looking. It was 11 months ago that I was on your show, and that was one of the first shows that I did. My article in Skeptical Inquirer, my first one had just come out, and I was with Anthony. He was conducting in San Francisco, and I just can't believe like everything that has changed in that 11 months. It's just like it's astonishing.
So
I'm so grateful to everyone.
I mean, you're doing a great job. And you know what? I think on top of that, you are one of those people that are just down to earth. You're nice. When we got to meet in person, which we can talk about in a couple of minutes, but you are genuine. Like it's those rare people that what you see on videos or YouTube or TV or whatever, that's who they are in person. And you have that. So I think that's part of your success is because it's really you and it's not a persona. It's not an acting job that you're putting out there. So, I mean, I'm happy for you. We're excited. We talk about you all the time. Mostly Anthony. I mean, we talk about him a lot more because, he's an awesome guy. We love
He's way cooler than I am for sure.
So you went to SHICon. Let's talk about that. Let's recap a little bit because it has been almost a year since you've been on the show, and with all this stuff that's happening, you went out to SHICon. This was your first SHICon. Was this your first like science conference?
Not my first science conference, but I'm gonna tell you something, and I really please don't judge.
Oh,
I know.
We all judge here. This is a bar.
I didn't know about SHICon. I actually didn't even know. I don't even think I knew about SHICon when I was on your show. It was like over the summer, and a friend of mine, John Guy, who I know you've had on as well, I was like, Melanie, I'm going to go to SHICon. What's SHICon? So he's sending me this information. I'm like, this seems pretty great. And then he says at one point something about Sunday morning papers. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What's that? And so I seriously had no idea. And so I, applied for it and thankfully was accepted. But like by the time I got there, the buildup that led from me being completely ignorant to its existence to actually going, I learned more, just enough to be like ridiculously nervous. But then everyone there was so wonderful. And I got to meet so many people that I had met off, in virtual space.
Online.
And so it was so fun.
It is. That's the best part. Like, because it's that once a year kind of thing. Because we've been there 5 years. 5 years. I don't know. How many bottles do I have? That's how many. 4. No, I have 3 bottles. The half bottle was from Jim. So yeah. Because we didn't get the bottle the first year. So yeah, like going there, it's the chance to meet up and see people that we haven't seen for a long time and meet new people. And that's I love that. Like, because you talk to people online, and maybe this is how online works. You talk to people online, you get to know them. It's like we've known each other for years, but never met. And then when you get together, it's like, what? This is so much fun. Like I've been that way with Ben Rafford. He's my editor. Like I've met him, I think total now 3 times, and I've known him for over a decade, probably more than that, maybe 2 decades, and I've only met him 3 times.
Well, even like Dave and Tim, the 3.
Dave and Tim, yeah, that I do my other show with. Dave, I've met 3 times. Tim, a couple times, like that. So, I mean, so what was your overall impression when you got there? When you finally got there, day one, what are you thinking?
Well, first I was a little starstruck because there were so many people there that had been influential to me on my path to getting to where I was finally able to say something useful. But I seriously had met like Timothy Caulfield and David Robert Grimes. And now as soon as I start naming names, I know I'm going to leave someone out. And so I'm a little afraid to name too many names, but like they're all in one place. So I was so excited. And then there were just so many people that I had met, like Susan Gerbic. She's been so amazing. And like in real life, there she is. And again, I'm trying not to say too many people's names, but and the energy from people was so wonderful. And it just felt like all of these people were gathering in a place my whole life, and I never knew that this was a thing. And it's like I found a home. It was so wonderful.
Oh, that's
Nice.
good. That's good. That's the way we feel every time going back. It's like these are my people. These are our people. You know, we can relax. We don't have to be so on guard when you're speaking because most of them pretty much feel the same or maybe just slightly different, but you can talk openly and everyone discusses things and nobody gets mad or butthurt and, you know, runs away crying. So it's really, really nice. I love that. And yes, you got to present for the first time. So how was that when you finally applied and you got accepted? What was that about?
I was shocked. And as I said, like I started to get nervous almost instantaneously. But it's a topic I love to talk about. So once I got started, I'm like ready to go. And oh crap, I run out of time. But yeah, it was just so great. I will say I'm mad about one thing at SciCon, and vengeance will be mine.
Oh boy.
I didn't win that Halloween costume contest.
It was Donna's fault.
It was not my fault.
Donna's fault. Donna's fault. No. I mean, we went. I'm not going to justify it because I'm going to screw up. Wasn't my decision. John Guy was the best. He had the best suit. That was amazing. And
I was a
that
pretty kick-ass pirate.
That was.
And I had a. What'd she say?
I said you were a kick-ass pirate.
but there was a theme, and it didn't go.
I went with the theme pirates.
Tropical, not pirates. Tropical. Tropical is the theme.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
Rum.
she kind of got you there.
Rum. All right, moving on before I get in too much trouble. So what was your? So you presented. What did you present?
I presented about using inoculation theory in the classroom, using active inoculation. So it's basically where I have students create misinformation to learn the techniques of misinformation, and gave different examples of some different.
What are you laughing for?
I don't know.
Because you had some pretty good examples, and I remember one stood out really, really well with everyone.
When was that, Penny?
I believe that was called. It was a product called Hammercock. And I think, what do you think I was afraid to say? This is my show. I say whatever I want. So yeah, and it was like I believe it was a male enhancement product, and the idea is to sell it and use these marketing techniques, these more pseudoscience marketing techniques. Is that correct? In order to sell it. And I mean, it was really good. I think that's a great lesson because it's creative for one. And once you get into it, once you get into that process and start trying to figure out how to sell something, how to say something without exactly saying it, it's a skill. It's a big skill. And that's something we do here a lot, where we have a problem, like we try to recreate things like, you know, ghosts and and poltergeist videos and stuff, and trying to figure out how to do it without getting caught is great. I mean, it's a great lesson because you get all these skills, you learn so much. So I thought that was a great presentation. I loved it, and I mean, it was funny, and that's what you got to do. You gotta, because and I won't name names, but there were a few speakers that were boring. They had good information. I don't want to sound like I'm really dissing them, but they had good information, but they were boring, and it was like they read from their script, and that was it. I like when people are funny and lively and energetic, and that was great. I mean, when you presented some of that stuff, especially the one product, I mean, you were like, that's what it is. And I remember it was real big on the screen too. And I was like, damn, you go, girl.
Yeah, I totally did it. I know my audience, right? I teach non-majors at a non-science majors at a community college, and I want them to be excited about science, and I want them to learn this stuff. And, if designing a pseudoscience product for a male enhancement product named Hammer, do you remember that it had the little picture of the nail and the hammer, and it said nailed it? Yeah.
Nailed it. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. It really should be a product. Is this anywhere? Is that presentation like anywhere that people can see it?
Yeah, the well-known skeptic put it out there.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. So click on the link and watch it because it is worth it. It's so worth it. Not only do you learn about deceptive kind of marketing, but that part when it comes up, it's so worth it. It makes it. Oh my God. Hey, John Kennedy. Oh, see, look, you're still loved. You're their favorite guest. Okay, so I guess moving on here. What was your favorite part? What was your favorite part of the conference?
I just loved meeting everyone. I mean, honestly, I know it sounds so like cliche, but I did. Yeah, but I did. I just loved meeting everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think Susan Gerbic, who's in the chat room, she said it. It's like you come for the speakers, but you leave with friends or something like that. I forget exactly what she said. She's probably going to yell at me for messing it up. But I mean, that's what you do. You come here for the speakers, but you also come to meet everyone, and it's a great time. And I encourage everyone to go. The last question about Scicon, and then we'll move on to something else, is you were a first timer. Oh, there you go. Return for the people. Scicon. There you go. Thank you. So you were there. You were the first timer. For next year, because it's already in the plans. It's already in the works. What advice could you give people that might be on the fence about going and they want to go? And what advice would you give them maybe to nudge them to go? And then when they get there, what to expect?
Go first. Go. And talk to people. Everyone is there wanting to do the same thing. I personally don't like to, I'm kind of an introvert, and I don't necessarily go up to somebody and start a conversation. But I love it when people do that with me because I'm just not necessarily as comfortable to doing that. But like as soon as people start talking to me, I'm there, right? So people were really welcoming that way. And so I would just say, to the people, I suppose, like me that are a little afraid to, say hi.
Yeah. I'm like that. I'm shy.
Yeah.
I run away from people.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish you could have seen the look on her face, like, what? All right. So I saw that you're part of your big explosion into this celebrity status of science. You've done a lesson, and I think it's a video lesson. Is it all in video? Okay, because I started watching it, and it's called Checkology lesson with the News Literacy Project. So I have two basic questions, and then I'm going to follow up with a bunch of other questions, depending on how we go. What is the News Literacy Project? Can you explain what that is?
I'm going to do my best. They're a nonprofit. They've been around for, 15 years, I want to say. And they were started by a journalist who's won a Pulitzer. The idea behind News Literacy Project is to try and provide resources for primarily educators and people in educator roles to be able to understand the media and be good consumers of media. So Checkology is their section that actually produces these lessons. So they have a whole bunch of lessons and they're phenomenal. Like off the top of my head, there's one on bias. If you want the link for that one and Donna's unable to find it with my really vague description, please let me know later and I will provide it for you. But it's wonderful. It's absolutely spectacular. Over the summer, they finally decided to, when I say finally, because science is the area that I really am interested in, they started their first science lessons and they put out a trilogy of science lessons. And what they do is they hire subject area experts to put together lessons, and then they film the lessons, and then they do an amazing job putting together like lesson plans and questions and that teacher support, and then providing resources for educators. So top to bottom, it is a fantastic organization. The lesson that I did is on evaluating science-based claims, and it's their basic science lesson on what is science, how to tell good science from bad science, how to evaluate claims that appear scientific, and we can talk about that as much as you like. But that's the gist of News Literacy Project and Checkology.
Okay, cool. I did put the link in the chat room so people can check that out if they want to for the News Literacy Project site. So that is a big class. I love it.
And it's plastic because I break stuff.
Mine's plastic too. Don't worry. So
Classy.
I know. It's all about the fancy over here. You know, sweatshirt, a hoodie, sweatpants, plastic jug I drink out of. I mean, you can't get any fancier than this right here. So with that, what's Checkology? What's Checkology is, I guess you basically explained it. It's going into pseudoscience and trying to determine the difference, or is this a line of classes?
Yeah, so Checkology is where the News Literacy Project puts their lessons. So media literacy lessons, science lessons. So this is one of their Checkology lessons. Okay.
And yours is, let's see, there's a couple things here. And I mentioned it before the show, but like the post that you had up, because I saw your post on Facebook and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. You know, we can talk about this. And then I read the rest of the post because the little show more came up and I clicked it. I was like, oh, hell, she's got all the questions I would ask. So it's already here. I don't have to do anything. This is so much fun. I love this. So one of the first things you have up here is, let's say, that it'll teach you the difference between science-based claims and non-science claims. That you'll be able to explain why science is never 100% certain about anything and why this is one of its strengths. So I'd like to start there, like talk about this, because honestly, one of the biggest complaints, I don't know if it's a complaint or I guess maybe rebuttal or I'm not sure of the word. You'll understand when I say it. When I'm engaged in a debate with someone and we're talking about science versus like beliefs or something like that, I usually get, well, science doesn't know everything. And my first reaction is, no shit. We know that. Trust me, like we know that. We know we don't know everything. It's cool. So why don't we know everything or 100% about everything? And why is that a strength? So there you go.
Okay, I feel like this is going to be the part of the show where you're going to have to eventually tell me to stop talking.
This is perfect. The less I have to talk, the better. So I'm going to just walk away. You talk to everyone. Oh, look, she put the hair up. Like,
oh yeah,
it's getting really
like
well.
I'm ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to try and do two parts, and I'm going to try to remember to go to the second part. The first part is about the pseudoscience. So I am a huge believer of using pseudoscience in science classrooms. And I'm going to poorly paraphrase Carl Sagan here and say he has this great quote of if we teach people only the findings of science, no matter how useful or inspiring they may be, without communicating science's method, how is the average person to understand the difference between science and pseudoscience? So I'm trying to imagine like my students or the average person coming face to face with a claim and not really knowing how science works. And so not being able to tell if that claim is one that's been vetted through the processes of science or it hasn't been. And so I use pseudoscience so students can see the difference. And one of the things that pseudoscience tends to do is be overly certain. And science is never certain. And Kenny, I'm totally with you. It's one of the big, it's a major misconception about how science works. And I think part of it has to do with how we teach science, because we teach science like it's the findings. We teach people like, here is the textbook of knowledge that science has learned, memorize all of this information and you will be science literate. And that's, of course, not how it works at all. But if you present science like a bunch of findings that seem like they're carved in stone, right? They seem like facts that have been proven. And that means, well, we're done. We're not going to change our mind, right? And so science, though, is a process of reducing uncertainty. So scientific explanations are never proven. We can get really close. We can like asymptotically approach that point, but we can't ever get there. So science is more of a process of reducing uncertainty. It doesn't mean we don't know anything, of course. It does mean that we have the humility to say there could be information in the future that would cause us to change our minds. And we're willing, actually, we are absolutely open to evidence altering our position on something. That's, of course, what science is. And so, yes, science is not certain. Science, I think back of, like when I was in college, Pluto was a planet. And I know that's kind of like a loaded thing for some people. But like, there's, I'm sorry. Was that a touchy subject? Right, there was no epigenetics when I was in college, right? That we've learned stuff, we've changed our minds on things, and that's a good thing. So, yes, we need to be humble.
Didn't we bring Pluto back?
No, we have not brought Pluto back. Pluto is still out of the gang. I like how you were phrasing this, because it's something like the misconception of science is that, yeah, we know everything, it's carved in stone, like you said, and that means it's solid, it's unmoving, it's never going to change, which is not, it's just not how it is. And that for us, I say for us, I'm not a scientist. I'm a citizen scientist. I'll say that much. But we want new information. Like for me, one of the thing that comes up is that people ask me, why do you even bother like looking for haunted houses or ghosts or monsters and stuff if you don't believe in them? And for me, it's like, well, so far, as for what I've seen, the science says they don't exist. But I really hope they do. I really want them to do. And I mean that really led to one of my favorite shirts now that says, I hope it's a ghost this time.
I mean, it's a great shirt.
Well, I know. I wore it last week. I did. It was on. But I do. Like I really truly do. I go out to a place where they say, "Oh, this is haunted. This is, you're going to get possessed by like 27,000 demons and stuff." And I'm like, "Yes, let's go." let's do this. Come on in. Because I want it to be different. I want it to change. And I think most scientists are kind of like that. I mean, not the same exact way, but we want more information. We want new avenues and pathways to open up because it just broadens our chance to explore this universe. And I think it's fascinating. I love how that comes. I love how you said that. That was awesome. You got me all like juiced up. Yeah. All right. So it's one of its strengths, not knowing everything. That drives us. That drives us to know more. Like it drives me to know more. I think it drives all of us to know more. So you constantly search for more. So that's good. All right. I'm good with that. Check that question off. The next thing I wanted to get into was, and this is something that I come across a lot, mostly because people use slang when they refer to scientific terms, and it kind of bothers me sometimes, but the difference between scientific hypothesis and scientific theory. Can you talk about that, explain what they are and what the differences are on that? Could you, please?
Yeah, honestly, there are so many scientific terms that it's really a shame. So, funny tangent. When I was at SciCon, I went to the pool because I'm a sucker for pools, and I was hanging out at the pool, and there is another conference there, and it was I'm not entirely sure. Wait a minute, how many times have you been there?
Oh,
Where's the pool?
yeah.
Did we see a pool?
No.
We've
The
been there.
outside.
Oh, the outside pool.
Oh, yeah,
You mean the outside? That was open?
Yeah.
No. We did walk down there, but it was closed, I think, the day we went.
Next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't do the pool. Just because like I don't want to see me in a swimsuit. So I stay away from the pool.
He's going to be sexier next year, though.
Yeah, we'll see. Get some lipo. Anyway, so you're at the pool.
Yeah. And there's a couple of
I'm sorry, that was me.
No more commentary.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So no, there's a couple of guys that were at a different conference, and they were NASA scientists, and told them what conference I was there for, and they're like, immediately you could see the face, skeptic. Is that like flat Earth stuff?
Oh.
I'm like, the moral of this story is even the word skeptic is so misunderstood, even amongst scientists. Like, there are so many words that we use that are just completely lost in translation. Consensus is another one, and we can get into that if you'd like to. But yeah, theory is one of the most misunderstood. So, a hypothesis is it's an explanation that that we can test. And when our hypothesis gets significant support, and when it starts to various hypotheses are converging on a similar conclusion that sort of provide an overall explanation, then we can call those theories. So some theories are more broad than others, but theories, generally speaking, are broader than hypotheses are, and they have more support. But again, some are more supported than others. So like evolutionary theory is one of probably the single most supported theories in all of the life sciences. But people will say, but it's just a theory, completely not understanding that in science, that means on that spectrum of certainty, the theory is as close to proof as we're going to get. We're never going to get there. And actually demanding that level of proof before accepting something is a hallmark of denial.
Okay.
Right. So back to what we were talking about earlier with certainty. Like if people demand certainty before accepting something, then it's usually they're in denial. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. She's like, sure. Yeah, okay.
I'm still thinking about the pool.
All right, you better bring your suit next year because I'm taking you out to the pool. Both of you. You're coming to the pool.
Well, she'll go with you. I will be busy. I will be busy doing science. I'll be skepticking. I'll be skepticking all over the place. I won't be able to have time for the pool. Skepticking. People who push them to remember Egypt. Oh, damn it, Bob. Every time. So a hypothesis then, can you explain that a little bit more? Like what, because my idea, my interpretation is that it's the beginning, it's the idea. Your hypothesis is your kind of your question that like, I think this is responsible for this kind of thing. And you kind of do research and you build that hypothesis until you start testing it. So am I on the right track, or am I off, or am I somewhere in the middle in a rut somewhere?
No, you're right. It's just how long can we call that a hypothesis? And we tend to we still tend to use the word hypothesis in different ways. You can have a hypothesis for an experiment. Not all science is hypothesis driven, or hypothesis even testing. Nevertheless, if you talk about your hypothesis being what it is that you've got your explanation, like I'm imagining you going to a new haunted house and you have some ideas about what might be causing what people are attributing to as ghosts. So you have some ideas of what you think might be the cause, and so you test those. So those could be your hypotheses.
Okay.
But then we could also say that hypotheses, like even in science, like ideas can have explanations can be tested for years before they move past the hypothesis stage, if they're lucky enough to get to something that's special enough to be elevated to a theory. The point for me with education is that people, when they use the word theory, like if I say, like I have a theory about why the Celtics lost last night, I'm guessing. I'm truly guessing because I have no flipping idea. But they did. I know they did. So I'm trying to explain it, and it's my guess. But a theory in science means, you know what? We're really damn sure. And actually, we're probably as sure as we're going to get. Could we change our mind? Of course. Bring me the evidence, and we will change our mind. But it's pretty unlikely.
So it's always been used, like I usually encounter it as a more of a slang term. It's more of an everyday kind of, because I always hear like, oh, the theory is, or like actually in my communities, they have paranormal theories. Like that's actually a term that people use. Like the paranormal theory is, and I'm like, is not. It is not. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And hypothesis is a term that I rarely come across. Let me rephrase that. In most of the paranormal community that I deal with, the term hypothesis is not known. So when I say, well, it's not really a theory that you're talking about, that's a hypothesis because you have an idea and you're trying to build upon it. Like, and they look at me like, what's a hypothesis? And I'm like, oh, stop doing science. Stop sciencing. Just stop it.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. Because, stop. Conspiracy theory does something similar. Like when people say that they have a theory, but they're really conspiracy theorists, even when we use the phrase conspiracy theory, it's another one of those places where the word theory is inappropriate because they have an explanation, but it's not one that's very supported. And so, and I don't know what kinds of theories people that are these ghost hunters? Like,
yes. Usually, yeah.
So when they use the word, okay, are they actually providing testable hypotheses though? Are these?
No.
Okay.
It's usually something like, if they're talking about like capturing spirit voices on recorders. It's like, well, the theory is that they use magnetism to imprint their non-existent voices without any larynx or anything like that, and then they imprint it on the recording itself. And it's a lot of word salad. So they have an explanation, but it's not a supported explanation. It's not even a question. It's not a wonder. Like, I wonder if this works. Like, I think it works this way. It's not even that. It's stated as fact. Present it as fact when there's just nothing to support it. And it drives me wild. It drives me crazy because I'm like, that's not. And I sit down and we talk about hypothesis and theory and how much goes into one as opposed to the other. There's a lot of work that goes into hypothesis, but there's so much more that goes into a theory. So much more. And trying to relay that information, it doesn't work because they turn around and go, well, yeah, that's just a theory. All right, I'm done. Time to walk away, have a drink. So that's where I'm coming from. So I don't know if you were continuing on, if you had something else to add to that.
No, the only thing I might wonder, because theories have to be testable, so they have to you have to be able to falsify them against evidence, and a lot of supernatural explanations aren't. And so I don't know what it is they're actually like, if it's even a valid hypothesis, because if it's not something that's inherently observable or potentially disproven, then it's not even a very good hypothesis.
Can you explain falsify? Because I know that's also something that comes up, and most people that I engage with have no clue what that means. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, falsifying. Yeah, it's a really hard concept, but it's essential to understanding the process of science. So falsify means you have to be able to disprove it with evidence. There has to be able to way to prove it wrong. And so with my students, like the floater toolkit that I developed and that's part of the Checkology lesson, uses the floater toolkit, and the F stands for falsifiability, because that's literally the first thing that I want people to do is to think, can I prove this wrong? And what I've done with falsifiability, it is a challenging concept. I've tried to simplify it by summarizing 4 primary ways that something is not falsifiable. So it's not falsifiable if it's subjective. So like if it's my opinion, like I always tell my students, like I think cats make the best pets, or I think kittens are cuter than puppies, or
I
don't know if we can be friends anymore. Depends on the puppy. Yeah, it really depends on the puppy.
Or it depends on.
But I mean, so I could provide evidence for why cats make good pets. Like, they're self-cleaning and they're quiet and they're, like I can leave them alone for days at a time. But it doesn't mean that opinion is ever something that can be proven wrong. So wait a minute, Daniel, you talking to me or Kenny?
Yeah, let's clear a little air here.
I'm going to say he's talking to you. I'm just going to go with that because that's the only sensible answer that I can come up with. That's my hypothesis.
Okay, so if it's subjective, we can't prove it wrong.
Okay.
If it is vague, we can't prove it wrong. So like supplements do this, so like if let's say that a supplement claims that it can, I'm thinking about a hammercock and what kinds of claims they made about hammercock. My brain got sidetracked for a second. I'm going to say I don't remember. But they may say something like I
think you were talking about supplements or dietary.
Supports the immune system.
Okay.
It supports overall health. right? By definition, actually, supplements have to be vague. They aren't allowed to make specific health claims. So when you see supplement bottles and they make these really vague claims that say something like reduces overall inflammation and makes you a happier and healthier person, and they're going to have a little asterisk by it, and the asterisk is going to say that these statements haven't been evaluated by the FDA. But basically, because they're supplements, they are allowed to exist as long as they don't make specific claims.
Right.
But that means they're vague. You can't test those. So vague. Kenny, you have a need to be liked and admired by people. Today is your lucky day. Right. So those kinds of like astrology statements, that's exactly something that's vague. Another one is the multiple out.
Bubble.
Oh, the multiple outs. Yeah.
Yeah, this is when, or the ad hoc excuses. This is when somebody really wants to protect their claim from being falsified, so they just keep making excuses. Conspiracy theorists do this, and my guess is paranormal researchers do this too. Like, the reason that didn't show up the way that it doesn't, the evidence doesn't support what I want to believe is because of this. And there's always a reason for why the evidence doesn't fit what they want it to fit.
Ghosts have the perfect thing because they always say, well, maybe the ghost didn't want to talk to you or didn't want to react.
That's exactly right.
There you go.
So somebody made the claim of the ghost unfalsifiable by giving it an excuse for why it can't be tested.
Yes.
Yes. And then finally, supernatural. So supernatural by definition is above and beyond what is natural. It's not observable. It is not measurable. It is not repeatable. A lot of energy claims fall into this. So like if Reiki says
energy, drink.
Oh man, if we get into energy.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we did that. Thank you for bringing it back. That was the first energy drink of the year.
New Year.
Nice.
So if it says something like the vibrations are in line with your chakras, I mean, like you can't. Ghosts also.
I can't. It's like the vibrations.
You keep sidewalking me. I'm trying to make actually decent points, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like energy.
Energy. Oh, I love it. We have so much fun when you come on. Okay.
But ghosts can't be falsified unless they leave physical evidence. Like, if you can touch a ghost, or if it can slam a door, or if it messes with stuff, then it's supposedly doing something that messes with the physical world. And so we can falsify that. But if somebody's just making like these vague ghostly claims and then excusing everything away with excuses, then yeah, they've just made their entire claim unfalsifiable, which means that it's not science at all.
Okay. I agree. I agree. That's great. I like that. That's four good points. I'm going to use those. I'm totally going to steal them. All right. So let's see. Other things you have here is that for this course, you'll be able to explain what makes people vulnerable to pseudoscience and why some people doubt, resist, and deny the scientific consensus about some topics. And I think you mentioned earlier about consensus and if we wanted to get into it. And I certainly want to get into it because a lot of people don't follow the consensus and they reject it and say special pleading, stuff like that comes to mind. So look at you. Oh, this is going to be good. So tell me about.
Well, first, yes, Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
Anthony's also in his PJs.
Oh, all right.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? This is good. Good stuff.
All right. So tell me, why do some people doubt and resist and deny scientific consensus? What is scientific consensus? Explain that first, and then we'll get into why people reject it.
Yeah, I think that's a better place to start. Because consensus is again one of those words that people mess up with, because
Yeah.
it seems like our lawmakers right now are trying to reach consensus on funding the government, for example. That is, they're trying to come to an agreement so that they can get shit done. We could have a consensus on what movie to watch tonight, right? All of those things are a use of the word consensus, a scientific consensus. I really like Naomi Oreskes' definition of science, and so I'm going to paraphrase her here. So science is a process of collecting and evaluating evidence as a community. Basically, it's a group of experts independently trying to collect and evaluate evidence, and to anybody who thinks that scientists can agree on something have like never actually talked to one. Oh my God, they love to argue. They live for that shit, right? If they can prove you wrong, they're going to do it. If you're lucky, they're going to be nice about it. But if, it's just business, right? That's all they're, and so,
My
so
wife's
science,
throw me under the bus over here. Yeah, like if you're like, it'll be nice if you're lucky about it, or and you're like this, and she's like Kenny Biddle.
I mean, they're not mean people, but they're also not trained to agree with each other. And look, if the best way to make a name for yourself as a scientist is to demonstrate that all of consensus science is wrong. Like, Kenny, if you could prove that there are ghosts, you're like Nobel Prize, right? If somebody could come up with actual evidence that evolutionary theory was not all it was cracked up to be, like Nobel Prize. If somebody could actually show that humans are not causing the climate to change, that is how you make a name for yourself. The reason that scientists are all generally in agreement is because the evidence is in agreement. And because they have tried to test those other explanations, they can't. And so they're like, okay, I'm going to accept this. And so this is where we are now. We are in agreement on this. And actually the consensus then is, like, when we talk about that book of facts that we ask our students to memorize, that's basically consensus science. That's the stuff that people agree on at this current moment. It could change, of course, but as more evidence is collected, the less likely it is to change. So consensus is science. Establishing consensus is the process of science. Now, why do people deny science?
Why?
Because they don't like what it says. Right? We all think our beliefs are based in science. Science is reliable. So we all know that, right? So if I want to believe in ghosts, then I'm going to say that, you know what? Science shows that my position is supported. Right? It's based in science. Scientists that don't agree are all conspiring, or they're all paid by something, or whatever it is that I'm going to have to do to discount scientists that don't support my position. Science denial tends to be motivated by vested interests, by identity issues, by social identity issues, by important values that we may have. Like, I'm in a conversation right now with a commenter on my website who denies evolutionary theory. And the reason is that he's a Christian and he thinks that he can't accept evolutionary theory and believe in God. And so his denial is motivated by the consequences of accepting evolutionary theory, which he thinks means disproves his God. So denial is motivated by these various things. And then to maintain our denial, we do a variety of things. And I'm going to say these things while probably one of the world's biggest experts on the topic is likely in the chat room. So John, if you're there, be nice. John Cook. John Cook has, is he in there?
He was.
He was earlier. I knew that.
I don't know if
He
he's
was.
stuck in the background now.
Oh, you know what?
John
Text
Cook.
John and tell him I'm dropping his name. So John Cook characterized the techniques of science denial in an acronym called FLIC. It's actually from Mark Hoofnagel, but he summarized it by FLIC. FLIC stands for, and I know you talked about this with Lee McIntyre, fake experts, logical fallacies, impossible expectations, cherry picking, and conspiracy theories. We've already talked about impossible expectations. If I want to deny climate change, What I'm going to do is say, well, first of all, it's motivated by my not wanting to, if I don't like government regulations, right? A solution to climate change almost is going to have to involve government regulations. So if I don't like government regulations, I'm going to deny the problem. Or it could be motivated by my social identity. The biggest predictor of climate change denial is a conservative, especially in the United States. So if my tribe doesn't believe in climate change, then I don't want to either. Whatever it is now, I don't want to accept that conclusion. I'm going to say science doesn't work by consensus. I'm going to say that climate scientists are all being bought. I'm going to say that, well, when science has proven, then I'll accept it. I'm going to demand impossible expectations. Right? I'm going to appeal to conspiracy theories. I'm going to cherry pick. I'm going to pull out some a fake expert or maybe somebody who's on the fringe. So I'm going to use those techniques to maintain my denial. But the denial itself is motivated by some sort of like internal desire. Why don't I want to accept that? I need a drink. Energy.
Yeah, it's a tea break.
I love it. See what happens when you come on the show for your second time, you start taking over. You're familiar with the show, you're just like, you know what? I need a drink. Energy. Boom. Everyone drink. There you go. I love it. That was great. That was great. We have 3 minutes before we have to go to our pee break. But let me see. There was so you did that. Resist and deny. I'm reading off my notes. Evaluate science-based claims using plausibility judgments. I can recognize common problems with science news coverage. What possibly could be wrong with news coverage of science? I can. Let me see if I can offer one. Clickbait headlines that do not give you the actual meaning of a scientific report or a paper. That's my biggest pet peeve. That I hate that. I hate when I read a headline and I'm like, oh, it's saying ghosts are real, and then you read it and it doesn't say that at all. So, what you got 2 minutes? No,
I think false balance for me falls up there too.
What is it?
False balance.
False balance. Okay.
That is like, well, the scientific consensus is that humans are causing climate to change, but look, this person says no. Or, like all of scientists basically say this, but then there's like this person here. So it's a false balance. But I think for me, the basic issue with news coverage is that science works by trying to disprove ideas. I'm going to paint sort of a picture with my hands here. I have a graphic that does something similar. So like I know, because I talk with my hands. So as scientific knowledge builds, we get more certain about that particular area. So let's say that, something like evolutionary theory, that we've got like 160 years of evidence to support the core tenets of evolutionary theory. But then like it kind of builds out like a tree. I always picture a tree in my head where like more evidence accumulates. Some of it sort of, it's not perfect analogy. Some of it doesn't work out, but it's like this thing that expands over time. And as more evidence is collected on the perimeter, then by definition, the stuff in the middle becomes even more certain because it had to be supported to get to the stuff on the outside. Okay. The news, by definition, covers things that are new and noteworthy. It doesn't cover consensus science. It doesn't cover the vast majority of what we know. The stuff that we're like really, 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 really certain about, it doesn't cover that. It's a new study says this, because that is interesting. It's sexy. It is, sensational. But the stuff at the fringes is the stuff that we don't really have much evidence yet to say how certain it is. So on the fringes, well, yeah, you're going to see studies that say this, studies that say something else. And so then the headlines are like, well, one day science says this, and then the next day science says that. And part of that is just because what it's doing is covering science on the fringes, on the edges.
Yeah.
It hasn't yet been established. And so, a part of it, it is the nature of news coverage. But then just know that when you're reading news, it's what is new and out right now, as opposed to how does this fit in to everything else that we currently know.
Right. And I think another problem that feeds into that is the need to be first, the need to get it out there as soon as possible. That is the news. We are a 24-hour news cycle. So it's not like you have the next morning to get a story right or check your facts. It's how fast can you get it out there and make sure you get it out there before everyone else does, regardless of whether it's right or not, or misleading or not, doesn't matter. Let's just get it out there. And I see that a lot with magazines and other social media sites that carry like current news, and especially, I mean, with what I'm into. I mean, I don't really look at politics or anything like that because I hate politics because I think they all suck. But I look at fringe topics like what you're talking about. I'll look at fringe topics and what science or what's new discoveries might influence that. And you take something like, I'm totally blanking. In physics, when they had, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. When you have two atoms that
Is this the
react,
fusion?
No, react the same way simultaneously. Good. Oh my God, help me out, people. Because I'm totally blanking on it.
What do you think it is?
Not fission.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm
skip that
totally not scientist.
until somebody spooky action at a distance. I think that's what it's. Thank you. Hey Ross, thank you. As soon as it popped up on screen, it popped into my head. Thank you, Ross. Spooky action at a distance. Entanglement. Thank you. Yes. So, once that idea came out, and ghost hunters started sharing that like crazy, like saying, "Hey, look, this proves there's an afterlife." And my first thought was, how the fuck do you get that? Like, where did that come from? And it goes into, well, all these atoms out there are reacting. When you die, you're in another plane of existence, but you can still react the same way the environment reacts. It's a lot of nonsense, but they basically hijacked the idea of spooky action at a distance, entanglement, which is in physics, and they use it for themselves to say you can be dead but still interact with the living. And I don't know how they made that connection, but they did. And I saw a lot of headlines like that. It was more like 2 or 3 years ago. I think that really started coming out, maybe 5 years ago. I started seeing a lot of people share articles that referenced scientific papers, but had nothing to do with the scientific paper. It was just that idea, the spooky action. That's all you got to do. If you put spooky in your title,
what a great term.
Yeah. All right. We are overdue. It's time for our break. So everyone that's watching, we do have a new intermission. It's basically an intermission. It's not a commercial anymore, but it's an intermission. It's 3.5 minutes. So we're going to go do our thing on our break, and we will be back. If you have a question, please do me a favor. Put it in the chat room now, because the second hour, we're going to stop having our awesome discussion, which I would go on forever to talking about this stuff. I love learning from you. But we're going to take questions from the viewers. I know we have some in the queue already. So if you have a question, put a Q in front of it, put it in the chat room. Donna will get it when we get back here, and we will go from there. Okay, good. So let me cue this up and play the commercial, and I will. It's 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
All right.
And you'll at least watch the first 5 seconds of it, because it's funny. It made me laugh. All right, so here we go. I'll see you in 3 minutes and 27 seconds from now. Hey, all right, we are back. I gotta tweak that intermission a little bit. I wanted the music to like fade a little bit
Yeah,
as
before
we
it
went
just-
in.
yeah.
Yeah, just instead of cutting off, I'll redo it. But worked. How you doing? You good?
I'm good.
Yep.
How you doing?
You're,
you
I'm
doing?
good. How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? Oh man. All right. We have some questions. And again, if anyone has more questions, we have room for more. Although I know Melanie can talk, so the question we have might last the rest of the show, which is good. I like that. More information is better. So yeah, if you have a question, please put it in the chat room. Put a Q in front of it so we can save it. But let's go with our first question here. Ben Radford. Why do you keep letting him in?
You didn't.
I
You
know.
didn't give me a list.
I know. I love Ben. I give him shit all the time. Ben is one of those guys. Like he's one of those friends that, like we talk a lot more now because we actually work together. But we text or Facebook Messenger or whatever, and it's always like making fun of each other, cutting each other up. Like most of the time, I get, "Hey, fucker."
I've
I
never
need-
met Ben in person.
Ah,
I
he's
know.
like-
Well, because he wasn't at Scicon. Ben's book I have it on my bookshelf about investigating paranormal claims
yes.
was like amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, Dimitri is weird and likes bongo played. Yeah, like legit.
Oh.
He likes. I play kitty bongos on him.
So the question is, I saw Melanie play bongo drums on her cat's butt last week. Leave it to Ben. It was adorable, but does she also put jelly beans in the cat's ear and then watch them fly through the air when the cat shakes its head? Oh my God, do you do? Why are you showing that? Oh my goodness.
Yes,
put
this
jelly
is Dimitri.
beans in its ear?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, freaking Ben. All right, next question, please. John Guy, what's one or more pseudoscientific belief you used to hold that you were reluctant to give up, if you have one? Ooh, that's a good question. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so I grew up in a young Earth creationist church. I don't know if I was reluctant to give up in that belief necessarily, but yeah, like I believe the whole thing.
So both your parents believed, or just one?
No, so we lived in a little town in Iowa, and my dad never went to church. My mom's a believer, and she sent us to the local church, and I just don't think she realized. So like the earth is 6,000 years old, and God created Adam and Eve to serve Adam. And yeah, so like it was really
Old school.
confusing for me because at home, like she was telling me, Melanie can do anything anybody with a penis can do. My mom's awesome. She literally would tell me that. Except pee standing up, I think was the rest of that.
Well, there is the
I
she
hope my
wig.
mom isn't listening.
So the she, and I apologize. Is your mom still with us?
She is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is she does she still believe that?
You know, I don't think she believes that. I think it was really hard for her to I don't think she realized that people could abuse the belief in faith to pass along harmful beliefs. And so we didn't discover, it didn't really become a problem until I was in high school, and my mom's Sunday school teacher got sick, and she volunteered to fill in for him. And they took it in front of the church board and then decided that women couldn't teach men over the age of like 16. There was a woman master of Sunday schools. They actually they told her husband that she couldn't do that anymore. They actually changed the locks on the church on her, from what I understand. So let's just say that, like, and at one point the youth minister came to my house to basically tell me what my place was. And I'm like, Mom, I don't understand what the hell is happening. And so I went to college to actually wanted to be a vet. So I was in biology and chemistry major. And honestly, I remember it was World Civ 1. I remember sitting in World Civ class and the professor was talking about like how different ancient civilizations created different gods based on different environmental conditions and different, like, basically their needs and their conditions led to them creating different gods. And I remember sitting in class and like this, I wanted to jump out of my seat. Like my head was going to explode. Like, holy crap, humans made God. And it was like, so World Civ 1 was like my thing, and it just changed me forever. But mostly I think I was primed because, you know, my church had basically taught me that I was like a man toy. And I'm like, this was not something that was cool for me.
Right. That's yeah. That's weird. I mean, it's weird to me. I let me put it that way. It's weird to me because I guess that's not how I was. Yeah, small town. I guess that
We
the
didn't
the
grow up
little
anywhere
religious
near
thing.
small
We
town.
grew up in big city, you know, and I think because I was raised more by my mother than my father, I didn't see that part of religion, you know, where it was like the woman's place is below the man. I didn't see that, which I'm grateful for, you know, because I was raised Catholic. So I have a ton of other problems, but a ton of other problems that I had to deal with from that. But I didn't see that part of like religion. So I give credit to my mom for one thing of teaching me that everyone is the same, no matter what. Everyone was the same, and that's what stuck with me forever. So, well, at least up until now. Now I think there's some assholes out there that I don't want to deal with. So, I mean,
There was a few of them on the highway today.
there's so. All right, that's a good question, John. Thank you so much. Let's see what else we got there. Divine Donna. Damn it, Bob.
Yeah.
Sounds like there needs to be a dedicated time for a pool party. So
Scicon, I totally agree. Maybe the next party should be at the friggin' pool.
it's something
Why
that's
can't we do
weird.
that?
Well, you know what? The last time it was a little chilly though, wasn't it?
It was. And
Yeah.
actually, it was really chilly. I was there just because it's a pool, so I was obligated to go, but honestly, it was really cold and miserable.
I remember we walked by so after the conference, that's when I walked by it.
We were outside.
'Cause did we
saw
walk
the
by?
flamingos.
Yeah, we were outside. We were walking along the
We walked
the-
around
the-
to
the elevated
side of it.
bridge to get to the that little monorail, and
Yep.
we looked down and it was like, oh look, there's a pool. But again, like Donna's the pool person, so next year you two can go hang out at the pool, have fun. I will do
I
skeptic
think
stuff.
SHBCon should have a speaker at the pool.
I mean,
Yes.
if we can arrange it.
Even like in the afternoon.
Oh, I wonder if we could do it like a live skeptical help bar from the pool.
From the pool. That'd be awesome.
There's a pool bar.
We can
Even
drink
better.
and talk about science stuff at the
In
pool.
the pool.
In the pool. Be like, we're in the pool. I'm slowly, like during the course of the show, I'd slowly sink. Like I can't hold myself up anymore.
A little floaty, like
Oh, like the arm
yeah,
floaty.
yeah.
I'll get like My Little Pony. Be like a floaty. All right. I agree, Bob. There should be a dedicated pool party.
We gotta work on that.
As long as there's alcohol. That's the only way to really get me to do stuff that I don't want to do. Just
Okay.
tell me that there's alcohol and I'm like, okay, you know, I'll give it a try. Okay. All right. What else we got there, Donna? John Cook. Hello. Oh, John Cook. Would love to hear about how Melanie teaches psychic methods by doing a reading of her students. So tell us, Melanie, how do you do a reading of your students?
Well, I hope they're not listening because I actually did this yesterday and the reveal is Tuesday. I know.
Oh, we have to do a reveal. Remind me, we have to do a reveal. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So on the first day of class, I tell my students that I have a friend who's a psychic. It actually turns out I'm a good liar when I want to be. And so I like sell the psychic things. Like I have a friend who's a psychic and I mean, she knows I don't really believe this stuff, but she also knows I teach this class. And so she's willing to do these readings for students for free to test her effectiveness. And so I have students fill out this questionnaire and it's like their name and birth date. And also like, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? Or like if you could get paid to do anything for a living, what would it be? So I prime them with these kinds of questions.
I'm there. I answered that question. Here I am.
And then the next class, I will give them their personality readings and then ask them to tell me how effective she is. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how accurate was she? And they're about 4.3 to 4.5 out of 5, generally speaking. Some students are like, oh my God, how did she get me? Other students are like, oh, yeah, okay. But most of the time she's pretty accurate. Okay, now if you're comfortable with it, get with another student and tell them like what spoke to you. Why did you think she was accurate? And then they start to realize that they all got the same one. And I modeled this after Bertram Forer did this experiment with his psychology students in I think it was the 40s or 50s. And we actually know those statements today as Forer statements or Barnum statements. Those are those kinds of things that but horoscopes are full of them, right? Like most of the time you're introverted, but when the mood strikes you, you can be the life of a party. Or there are times where you've wondered if you've said or done the right thing, right? And so it's full of that kind of stuff. And so, of course, I think it's accurate because it applies to everybody. So then students realize I lied to them. And then I have to apologize for lying to them.
And then they don't trust you the rest of the class.
Well, and then I tell them, I'd like to tell you not to trust me, that you can trust me, but don't actually, because I could lie to you again. I'm trying to teach them to be skeptical, right? Don't even just trust me. Be skeptical. So, so I apologize to them, but it's a really good lesson on, first of all, why it's important to be skeptical. I make a joke about how, well, at least I did it for free, right? I didn't charge you for this. People will want to take your money doing this. And think then, why did you fall for this? What led you to think that this was so applicable to you? Well, let's talk about, first of all, the motivations for believing, but confirmation bias or, Barnum statements. And I appealed to authority. You trusted me. And so I give them all those sorts of lessons for why they should be skeptical. And I think it's a really good way to start the class. Actually, John and I are co-authoring a paper about using this types of inoculation theory. And we've actually called this a new type of inoculation. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome.
Basically, we're calling it experiential inoculation. The students are learning to be we're inoculating students against misinformation by getting them to fall for it in the first place. So we fool them, and then they learn to recognize those techniques so that they don't get fooled by them, hopefully in the future.
So this is a totally anecdotal, subjective opinion here, but I think that's the best way to burn it into memory, basically to make a mistake and learn from your mistake. Like, this is old school. For me, you can tell me over and over again, but when I screw it up, that's when I learn the most. At least that's how I feel. I learn the most when I screw up and realize I made a mistake or I was duped, somebody scammed me, and now I can go back and I have that experience, and I can build on that experience. So I get it. I want to share with you that with cold reading, So I've done a couple cold readings recently. I did an interview for a podcast with someone that was heavily into parapsychology. So coming at the interview, she was interviewing me, and she was from a parapsychology more background. And we did a cold reading. We reversed roles. So I played the psychic, she played the skeptic, which was fun. It was fun. She was pointing out all the techniques I was using, but in our reading, I got more right than I got wrong. And it was total guessing, like total guessing. No skills, just basically looking at her and watching her like nod her head. That's what I was picking up on. And then here at the Center for Inquiry, I recently did a talk here, and there was a lot of people that came out, and my colleague Eric, who offices behind this wall here, his parents came, and his mother asked me about cold reading, or not cold reading, but psychics in general, and how they do this stuff, and how could they possibly know information about them. And we went into like the hot reading and cold reading, and I started doing a cold reading on her. And like, I really need more practice, because I don't really do it that much. I only do it when I talk about it, so I don't have that like a really good experience. But I was getting like, I think I got her mother that had passed on, and I got a lot of information, like details right about her mother. But the only reason I got them right is because as I started to suggest them, she was nodding her head like, yes. And her face was like, oh, how did you know that? And to explain to them, I didn't know. I pretty much guessed. You know, I'm just going by, and I don't want to sound rude, but I was going by age and and because age, I mean, I always say there's a book that I have on my shelf here called Passages, and it's the Bible of psychics. If you get this book, it's called Passages. You know what? I'll find it and I'll send you the cover, because it goes through your entire life, the life cycle of a human being, and I think like decade by decade, it tells you all the most common things that would happen to you, friends, family, health, work, whatever. And when you read through it, like that gave me such insight into just looking at someone and saying, oh, this is probably what is going on in their life at this time, based on how old they are. So really good.
You know,
yeah. Go ahead.
I teach my students how to cold read as well.
Here you go.
Passages.
This is what it looks like.
Passages.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. She. Awesome.
Yeah. The basics of cold reading, it's incredible how easy it is to master. I teach my students how to cold read. I'm not very good at it. But I teach them the basics on how to do it and sort of have them practice a little bit on each other. But then I have them watch like, what are they? John Edward and what was her name? Sylvia Brown.
Brown.
Yeah, and my students will say, you know, once you see that, you can't unsee it, right? It's so obvious. But unless you're taught the basics of that, then it really can just look like magic. So there's another example of the inoculation. Like I teach my students how to cold read and then show them examples of, you know, psychics and okay, what are they doing? Right. And it's like, you know, their blinders off. They can see everything just by learning those basic techniques.
Yeah. It's really the whole eye-opening thing. Yeah. Like once you give them a little bit of knowledge, it opens up and expands like, holy shit. It's like being in a dark room, like a big, maybe like auditorium, and you have one light on, one little light bulb on. That's it. That's what you start with. And then someone comes along and says, hey, you know what? This is a technique. Let me teach it to you. That's another light bulb that goes on. Opens up a little bit more of that room. You can see more. And the more you learn, the more lights go on. And the more you see this big auditorium,
And
which
if
is
you-
too big.
If you find an electrician, you learn a lot faster.
If you go to Walmart or just go BJ's and get a real big pack of light bulbs, you can
They
really
just
save
all
yourself.
go on at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for just fucking up my analogy there.
Sorry. I'm sorry. It was a good one.
That was good. That was good though. I'll give you props. I lost my thought.
Your little light bulbs were going off.
Yeah, my light bulb's all busted now. But yeah, I mean
One at a time.
that's the way it is. I mean it's an auditorium or a big like conference hall that'll never be fully lit. But each time you learn something new, a new light bulb goes on and opens up a new area, and you can see a little bit more. Which is what I love about learning, what I love about knowledge. I mean, the more you learn, the more you can see. So awesome.
This
All right, this little light of mine.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
make
Bob.
it shine.
I'm gonna make it shine really bright.
Anthony, I should hear you in the background singing.
All right, what else we got there, sweetie?
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry.
All right,
I'm waiting for Anthony to start singing.
Anthony's trying to be like nice, and not interrupt and stuff, but we're like, come on, Anthony, interrupt.
Play that
All
organ
right.
in the back.
John Guy, do you teach the what is that?
Demarcation problem.
Problem in your. I'm glad you can say it.
Someone's being a dick, basically.
I love it. Oh.
No, okay. So the demarcation problem is the line between science and pseudoscience. Like, where is it? And it's hard to define. And so, like most things in class, I don't call it that because I don't think for most of my students, it's important for them to understand that. What I do is I teach, so I've said earlier that I include pseudoscience in class. Huge fan of including pseudoscience. One of the most important things when including pseudoscience in class, for me, I found to be effective is to start with pseudoscience that's not emotionally triggering. Meaning, start with beliefs that people are going to be able to, if they don't care about it so much, if they don't identify with it so strongly, they can more easily evaluate it. Right. So I don't start with like vaccine denial or with like climate change denial or GMOs or any of those really triggering issues. I start with witches. I do ghosts relatively early. I mean, I have students who believe in ghosts, but it's not like it's an identity issue for most of my students. Most students have seen ghosts. I've seen a ghost, right? I've told you about my ghost story, but the point here is when including these things that aren't science, that people think are science, start with things that aren't as triggering so that students can practice evaluating without having so much personally at stake. Now, that said, I also try, at least at first, to make the line between pseudoscience and science pretty broad. Like I start with examples that are very clearly pseudoscience. And over time, I will expand into things that are a bit more touchy. But, pseudoscience is one of those where like a lot of pseudosciences will include a mixture of claims, some that are probably true, some that are even science-based, and then some that are way out there. And so it's another way for students to practice the difference between the kinds of claims and why something is sort of on the line and something is just like really out there. But as far as the philosophical demarcation problem, I don't really dive into that. But thanks for the softball question, John.
Nice. Oh, we have a special guest. Oh, look. Oh, my goodness. It's a ghost. Ooh, Melanie, I miss you. All right, next question. Oh, AK Tanker. Is that new? Are they new? Well, welcome to the show. Glad you're hanging out. Should we then focus our efforts on slowing down the consumption of media, encouraging more time for contemplation and reflection?
That's a hard
Ooh.
question.
Yeah.
So on the consumption of media. I mean, media is everywhere, sort of all the time, and so at some point it's kind of hard to. I guess I don't know, maybe slow down consumption of media, maybe limit screen time or. Yeah, time for contemplation and reflection. When I teach students about being able to identify, because I do pseudoscience, but I also do misinformation more broadly and teach students how to fact check and how to basic misinformation on media. So like, is an image altered? Is this headline out of context? Are they missing context for a quote? So I teach students broad things like that. And if we don't, the most important thing when evaluating media is skepticism, because if we don't ask ourselves, is something true, we won't ever question and then check if something is true. And so most of the time it just sort of bleeds in and we believe it. And so getting students to understand why they fall for misinformation in the first place, which is usually because it fits with their worldview or it triggers them emotionally, something like that. So understanding why they would fall for something and then getting them to be skeptical about this, which means then slowing down and checking. But then I also try to teach students we're on our phones, we're on our media all day, right? And when you're scrolling through things,
not.
it can, I know. Well, for myself, I'm on it all day. It sucks.
She's on it all day, all night, all day.
Shh. Turn your mic off.
Okay, Anthony's actually not listening to this portion of the conversation, which is a good thing.
Yes, I am.
He's got it on his phone in the other room.
To be fair, he's on media right now too. But so when we're scrolling through, everything looks the same. Like if you're on, Facebook or if you're on TikTok, and it's a platform and it's delivering you media, and all of that media is designed to keep you on there. But something from the Washington Post can look like something from an influencer that doesn't know what they're talking about, and that's being fed to you from like algorithms and your personal choices. And it's all. And if we go on autopilot and don't question those things, then yes, it can seep in. So then what I teach my students to do is what kinds of media are you on most of the time? Like what platforms are you on? Are you on which social channels or are there news aggregators that you like? Okay, now let's clean up the feeds on that. What sources on there are more reliable than others? If it's not reliable, get rid of it. If make sure that the things that are showing up on your feed are generally speaking more reliable. Basically, have a good media diet so that you have to spend less time constantly checking if something is true all the time.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question.
I think it's good. I would add from my side, I would add that I guess my practice is that when emergency situations come up, I'm constantly looking at the media. And that's not to say that I'm accepting everything as absolute fact. I'm accepting things as they come in. I understand that. I have that understanding, like information is coming in constantly and we're changing what's happening. Like when the pandemic started, or when you have an emergency, like, and I hate to say it, a school shooting in the area or something like that. You want to constantly hear what's coming in, but with that understanding that it might be not true. There might be information that's false or misleading because people are getting rumors and trying to give you so much information all at once. You have to understand that you can't take everything at face value. Let's still filter through it, but keep up to date, I guess. Whereas the opposite side of that is when there's other information coming through. That's not an emergency situation where you're getting information about a product or medicine or something like that, and you have time. You do have time to contemplate, to reflect, to look it up, to fact check. We do it all the time. We're sitting watching TV sometimes, and like a news segment will come on, and we'll watch it, and it'll talk about, oh, this manufacturer did this, and they're recalling it because of this, or this medicine might have this side effect. We will look it up and go through all the steps to fact check it and look at certain sources. So we do. I think there's a balance there. Again, with emergency situations, we keep up to date, but everything else, we take our time. Unless it's politics, and then I don't give a shit. I don't listen to it at all because I don't like any of them. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, do you agree with that, or am I off? Feel free to
no,
disagree.
I've totally gotten ahead of you and read that question, and I'm chuckling at the question.
This question.
Anthony,
So now we have two.
You're now Divine Anthony.
Divine
A
Anthony.
disembodied voice. I'm sorry, you were asking a question and I've forgotten what it was.
It's all right. I mean, I don't get to see that because she's right there, so I don't get that perspective of like this voice just popping in whenever. Like I look at her every time I do this. I'm looking at her like,
right when I'm
what
talking,
the fuck are you
everybody
doing?
else is like, who's that?
We don't see her, Kenny.
Yeah.
I see her. I see it. All right. Next question.
Yep.
We're doing good. Jade Kitten, what's up, girl? Can we donate or something to all bear witness to Bongo?
Dimitri. Kitty Cat Bongo.
We've never had Kitty Cat Bongo on this show. This would definitely be a first. I'm not sure if I'm
Are you gonna try?
comfortable with it.
Kitty bongos. Yeah, we may have to. He can try to work it out in the background. So
We're just gonna see him like walk by in the back room, like, hey. I'm gonna be on the floor.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's torture.
Oh, and his evil eye in the picture. That's all he's in the
Oh
picture.
my goodness.
But you didn't know that I play bongos. I play bongos.
That's awesome.
It's time to drink the bongos.
Bongos. I played the bongos. Who plays the bongos?
I love the bongos.
Oh my goodness. It's at the end of the show when it takes a turn. We're playing bongos on a kitty's butt.
That's never happened before, has it?
You're so beautiful.
All right.
You're so beautiful. Mommy can.
Yeah. I'm not a cat person.
Doesn't matter. It's cute.
Not a cat person. Totally allergic to them. Nope. All right. Next question. Bob, do you have any recommendations or thoughts on the conservative movement in education to remove critical thinking by using the term indoctrination?
I don't know about this movement. I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah, I don't want to either. I mean, that would be so counterproductive. That, like, why indoctrination? Whatever.
Bob had to go, so we can maybe hit that question later.
Okay.
Or something.
Yeah, I can follow up with him a little bit and maybe connect you guys, and so he can explain a little bit more what he's talking about. Daniel Reed, do you teach elective classes and incorporate these types of concepts in them, or do you modify your science classes for both?
Yeah. My story is that I was teaching intro bio for non-majors for like 10 years, 12 years. And I really tried. That was my first thinking. My first Skeptical Inquirer article, Teach Skills Not Facts, was about my frustration with that class. And so actually, to my department's credit, we had a conversation about the kinds of courses that we teach. Gen Ed science classes are often like the last chance we have to teach the average person what they need to know about science. And the question that I posed to the department was, are the classes that we're teaching meeting that need? And we actually got rid of intro bio, and I made a class in its place. And that class I call Science for Life. But the idea is skills, not facts. So critical thinking, information literacy, and science literacy. And the whole class is focused on what those skills, which is why I use pseudoscience and inoculation theory and this toolkit that Getty and I would talk about, Floater. My goal for my students is, so this is at the end where I'm going to start to get really emotional about how important this journey was to myself and how strongly I felt about this. But this is really what like lights my fire, right? Is that
go.
Seriously, I had 4 months to teach these students. So, like, this is the last science class they're ever going to have, and I was wasting it, honestly. And so the class now, my goal for them is to be able to make better decisions, to be good consumers of information, to be able to find information when they need it, know which sources of information are more trustworthy than others, how to make reasonable conclusions from the evidence that they from the evidence. And so the class is actually a whole new class designed to do that. I will say that I could not go back. Like, I just couldn't. I couldn't imagine going back to the old way of teaching. I'm a biologist. I think everything in those textbooks is important, and I think everyone should know those. But if I am given a choice between memorizing the facts in that textbook and teaching students how we learn those facts, I'm going to pick the latter every single time. And so what I wanted to do was change how we teach Gen Ed science. I don't say change. There are people out there doing really great work. Unfortunately, they are in the minority. We are in the minority.
Like modify, not change,
Yeah.
but just modify slightly. Maybe.
Actually, that intro bio course that I talked about, that was absolute waste of time that I couldn't go back to doing. That course is the primary course that the majority of people who aren't going to be scientists one day take for their non-majors class across the country. We call it baby bio. Like, the most popular baby bio textbook in the country is like 800 pages long. It's over 800 pages long. And in that 800 pages, this is a semester long course. In the 800 pages, like, the first chapter has like 4 pages devoted to the process of science. And then everything else is a bunch of facts that they have to memorize that they're going to just regurgitate on an exam and forget. And quite frankly, they can look up if they ever need to. The better question is, can they think through things? And I was trying to alter a course that was focused on content to teach these skills. And what I found was that critical thinking, those skills, couldn't be like an addition to a course. They had to be the course. So I now teach purely that, or almost exclusively that, and then bring in facts as we need them. I am, by the way, not saying there's not any place for those facts, because they're really important. And as I said, I'm a biologist. I think they're all important. My point is, they're less important than how we learn them. And so I didn't alter a course. It's a whole brand new one. And that would be what I would ask more people to encourage doing. I know that, like, college classes are a bit late. High school and middle school would be much more preferable. And I'm working with teachers, like various teacher education, to help them incorporate aspects of this into their curriculum. They have to teach to state standards and to exams and so on. So there are limitations, but there are also places in the curriculum that we can start to implement these things more, get students excited about science, and then also get them to understand what it is that they're learning in to begin with, right? Like if you learn the facts but don't learn how we learn them, then you didn't really learn science.
Right. I
Okay.
love it. I love
Sorry.
it. That's all
I love these questions.
like that's
Follow up.
what Daniel says. Do other professors at your institution buy in and teach similar things, cross-curricular types of things? Yes. No. Maybe.
So I'm at a relatively small college. It's I am the only instructor for Science for Life, the class that I'm talking about. But we only have like probably 3 or 4 gen ed science classes, and this one is one of the more popular ones.
Okay.
They do buy into it, absolutely. And there's a lot of interest on campus. So the approach that I use, I call it teach skills, not facts. I actually stole from Anthony. He calls it teach skills, not songs. I know it's hysterical. But he's for all these.
Stole it. She stole it.
Yeah.
It's mine.
I did. But he was teaching students to be able to read music. So instead of teaching them like memorize a song, here's how you read music so that you can learn the song. And I'm like, well, crap, that's what I'm doing, but I'm doing the science version. And then on campus, people are like, well, wait a minute. I bet we can teach math this way. And we're doing aspects of this already in English, but I really like this approach. So yes, there's absolutely an interest because each discipline has its skills. It has its epistemological foundings. Like, how is it that it learns information in that area? We could teach students those skills as opposed to just what we know. And a lot of educators do aspects of that. But the point is, we can do more of them as educators. And yes, there absolutely is interest. See, you're just going to ask me questions that I'm excited about, and I'm just not going to shut up.
Good. That makes for the good show. People love this stuff. I love this stuff.
Makes it, I mean, even for the students, it makes the class more interesting. It's not just, like you said, memorizing facts. You know,
Right.
That was the worst part of school.
I mean, maybe I'm old school. Not old school, because I think it was the same way growing up. Going through school, we were taught facts. We were taught certain things, memorize this, know this for the test. That's it. Like, I didn't learn how to come to that conclusion, except for math, where you had to show your work, which I failed anyway. But other subjects, you just memorized facts. That's it. And later in life, like different jobs that I've had, it was always like, just do it this way. And like fixing things or maintaining things. I didn't want to know just how to fix it this way. I wanted to know why I was fixing it this way. Like, what's the point? Like, what's happening when I fix it this way? Am I affecting other systems, this and that? So always learning about the systems, about more, I guess, information about the general systems. No, about the systems in general was what I was thirsty for. I don't want to know just facts. I don't want to memorize a procedure. I want to know why that procedure is in place. So I like the way you're teaching, because it's giving students a way to, think for themselves and not think what the book tells you to think, not just the facts that are in the book. It makes them think for themselves. They can evaluate things better. And these are skills that transition into everyday life. So that's why I like what you're doing. So,
can I ask you a question?
You just did.
I just did. I'm going to ask you another one. Did you take biology?
I did not.
You did not. In high school, what was the last science class you took?
So, I mean, when you say, did I take biology, I'm thinking biology is in like a class by itself. But no, I had a general science class.
In high school?
Okay.
In high school, it was a general science class. And
like chemistry, biology, you didn't dissect frogs?
Yeah, but that was science class. That was not a biology class. That was not a chemistry. It was just
mine, it was biology.
It was a general science class, And the most I remember, I didn't even remember that until you said it. So I dissected the frog, and I learned how to not burn up my textbook with a Bunsen burner.
Oh.
I don't want
Penny
to talk
was the
about it.
class
I don't want
clown.
to. No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. It just happened. I don't know, flames everywhere. But that's all I remember from science class. There was nothing about critical thinking. There was nothing about, hey, do this experiment. It was learn these facts. That's it. So, and I mean, I don't remember much of high school anyway, because it was a horrible experience for me. But other than that, like, no, I didn't take biology as a class. I don't know if that's exactly what you meant, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to I love asking people about the last science class they took and what they remember. And actually, I don't know how many people are here and commenting and what Donna's like ability or interest in handling this is, but I'm curious as hell about like, what is the last science class, assuming you didn't get a science degree? Was this last science class you took? And what do you remember from it?
so yeah,
Like,
that would
No,
high
I don't remember
school-
what happened yesterday.
school
I have no idea what
high school would be the last formal class that I took.
for you.
Everything else is basically the books behind me, where I
and
read.
you remember catching a book on fire? Am I getting that right?
Yeah,
In biology class.
it's kind of hard to forget. I mean, it was a pretty big
That
fire.
was chemistry class.
I mean,
We had the Bunsen burner out.
it was the reason why the class was told
Brilliant.
that the science lab was on the 3rd floor, so that if we blew it up, only the top floor would go, and it wouldn't take the rest of the school with us. So that was me. I did
Penny
that.
was trying to get everybody to play off at
I
school.
did that.
First period, burning his textbook.
Stop! It's a bad memory. I don't want to think about it.
He was probably grounded for a month.
I was grounded pretty much all high school. I was such a bad kid. I was such a,
I can see that.
I give my parents props for putting up with me, because I was horrible. I was a horrible child. Like, all kidding aside, I was a horrible child. So, more power to them for putting up with me.
I'm gonna have to tag this show and send it to
and
your
letting me live.
dad.
When your science teacher looks at you and go, this is the reason I have to tell everyone this. And I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, legacy bitches. Oh, and the other part of me is like, oh, I'm in so much trouble. So much trouble. All right. I'm sorry. Oh my God, bad memories.
Question.
All right, Bob, how do you feel about AI, like ChatGPT, we talked about last show, being used in the classroom? Do you think it hinders critical thinking or enhances it like calculators did it in the 1980s? What do you think?
I'm going to say that I'm not equipped to answer that question. Right now, as an educator, it kind of scares the crap out of me. I'm going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen so far, it's absolutely brilliant at creating in misinformation, at the kinds of homework things that we would ask students to do, essay questions. So yeah.
I think it's.
I
mean, from what little that I learned last week, because somebody brought it up during last week's show, and it was open mic night. So it was Bob, and I looked into it briefly. It scares me because it looks like it's going to be something that is going to stifle creativity, and the looking into things and expressing yourself, because it's easier to just put in a few words or ideas into this algorithm and have it spit out something for you. And again, like I'm in the same boat you are. There's more to learn about
think
this. I don't know.
The way you just said it, I think you're reading way too much into it. Like a kid is not going to read that much into it. He just wants an answer for the question on the paper. I don't think he's going to.
So I'm going to disagree with you based on experience. Just from dealing with parents and how much they have told me over the years, like my kid would never fool me. My kid isn't capable of pulling off a hoax when they most certainly are. So I could see people, and I'm not saying everyone's going to do this, but I can see kids getting turned on to this and saying, well, I can't write a good paper. I'm just going to feed this into this AI engine pretty much and say, you write the paper for me.
Right.
Instead of them writing the paper for themselves. And then not having that experience of either learning how to create I don't know how to say this.
Like the pieces of writing a paper.
Right. Like I guess I'm basing it off of my own experience, because like writing for Skeptical Inquirer, I've learned that over the years myself. Like I've taught myself how to write a story, how to write a mystery. And I think if I had this tool where I could just put in, hey, this is the rumor, this is the facts, do it for me, I would lose that creativity. I would lose that ability to write an entertaining story because I wouldn't have to do it myself. Something else is doing it for me. And I think that would be I almost want to say like a cheat. So if I'm taking a class that you're teaching, I can take whatever topic that you're giving me and throw in some basic facts, maybe copy and paste, and say, here, generate a paper for me that I can turn in and say, this is my own work.
Yeah, but as a kid, really, he's looking for a good grade, right? Like, is
Right.
he really going to think that much about what you're saying?
From my point of view, if I was in high school, I'd be like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
I can't write this shit myself. I'm going to get something else to do it for me. I like how she's just like, I'm going to sit back and let them argue. I mean, I don't think it's not teaching them anything. They're not evolving. They're not learning.
All right, well, hold it back up then. When like you were in high school, and how did you get grades on how did you get good grades?
I didn't.
Exactly. But
Didn't. But
like,
I learned from that. That's my point.
You didn't learn until you were 40.
Right.
So why can't another kid go through that experience?
But if I didn't learn it then, these experiences evolve. These experiences are all built upon each other.
Maybe they're just not at that right age to accept that. Like they're just looking for a freaking passing grade.
Well,
put yourself back in.
Too fucking bad. Do your own work.
Back into a 15-year-old and what.
Do your own work. Yeah.
What they're thinking. That's not what they're thinking.
Right. They're looking to get ahead.
What are you thinking?
How can I do this with the least amount of work? Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
And that's exactly, you would have used that tool.
But that's not right.
But you did it and you still turned out fine.
I didn't do it. I didn't have that tool available.
No, but you did it in your own way.
No, I failed. I failed.
But
I literally.
But you didn't fail at life. You figured it out.
Right. I figured it out on my own.
Right. So what's wrong with that?
If you're relying on a tool to do your work for you, you're never going to learn. You're never going to progress because you have that crutch.
Okay,
it becomes
so
a crutch.
Let's go back to that last thing that Bob put in his thing. Enhances like a calculator did in the 80s. When we were in the 80s, we were not allowed a calculator in school at all.
Same as me. I wasn't allowed.
But Connor was, right? He was allowed to use it. Once they got past second grade, they could add, subtract, whatever. They were allowed to use calculators, right?
Okay.
So it's the same kind of concept here. Like it's just like
but
Google.
We don't know. We got to sit him down and see if he can add and subtract by himself. All right, we're getting off. We're over 2 hours. We need to move on. We can continue this afterwards. so nobody can watch us argue. All right. So do we have one more question? All right.
No,
Yeah.
we just
Do
used
we?
that.
Oh, this is the last question. Oh, good. Whew.
Sorry about that.
Awesome show. Awesome show, by the way. I love this.
I think we should take Melanie's class together.
We should.
That'd be fun.
See, I know Kenny's going to plan on cheating now.
Oh, I'm gonna cheat so hard.
That's what I just learned.
I would be the heckler. I'd be like, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Trecek-King. I have a question.
Yeah.
And then you were like,
Kenny.
Mr. Biddle, what would you like? And I'm like, well.
No, I'm going to say,
He would
Mr.
be
Biddle,
in your class.
come see me in office hours.
I got nothing.
I'm not touching that. All right, moving on. So if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about what you're doing, where can they go?
Facebook and Twitter at Thinking Powers, the same for both of those, and my website, thinkingispower.com.
Okay. I will put that in the, let me see. I'm going to put that in the chat room so people can follow the link. But if you if you follow the show, you should already know about Melanie and her website and all the work she's doing, because I mean, I talk about it all the time. And I'm not going to let you go without touching on something, because you started a shop for your website. And I know you were like hesitant about talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, because it's totally about me. I'm totally making it about me. So you did, you have a merch shop and you're selling like t-shirts and stuff like that on your website. And I mean, in particular, I don't know, there's a certain shirt that comes up, which I think is awesome. And it's like a shirt that says, "I hope it's a ghost this time."
I love that it comes up woman's V-neck, right?
I did that. I did that on purpose.
That was funny.
So because there's others here. So if we go back and so there you go. See, like there's the men's, even though there's a woman, even though it's a woman that's wearing it. That's weird. That's totally screwed.
Well, that one's a unisex shirt.
It's a unisex. Yes. So I have this shirt. You guys, if you follow the show, you've seen me wear it before. I didn't wear it tonight because it was kind of chilly in here. So I knew I was going to wear a hoodie. So that's why I didn't wear it. But it's an awesome shirt. I love it. There's also what do we got here? We have the tip, which is a awesome joke, but it's a Thinking is Power shirt. There is the Melanie, which I love. I'm going to order this because I love the message. It's be curious, be skeptical, and be humble. I think that's just plain and simple. That's to the point. It's a good shirt. I like it. It's something that I'll wear. There is the Anthony, which I love, and I'm going to use it. I'm ready to use a clip. Oh, there he is.
He's like Beetlejuice. You say his name, he shows up.
Wait, does that make sense?
Wait,
Oh, wait.
I love it.
does that make sense?
I need an Anthony.
Does that make sense?
Anthony. Women's
You have to say it this way, and I can't pull that off.
Does that make sense?
Oh my goodness. I have to find. So
do we need to put your face on that shirt?
we totally
I wanted to.
Right?
We have that picture, I think, don't we?
we have a video.
We have
You
a video.
do. You're not
So-
going to put it in.
I'm trying to find it here
Dude, we
because
could totally put like black out his face, like a gray face in the background of that saying, and just like that would be perfect.
I know I don't have it
You're
with
not gonna
me.
be able to.
I don't
find it that
I don't
fast.
have it. I didn't queue it up, but we were fortunate enough. Let me to get
We
this
can
off here.
make the Anthony teeshirt.
We were fortunate enough to be in Vegas in the last SciCon, and I was able to capture video of Anthony doing that. And it will be appeaing in some of my videos as the little circle. Yeah, that's right. It will be because it's too good. It's too good. All right. So with that said, let's see. I just want to go through some quick things. I can't even see because I don't have my glasses on. There we go. Coming up, I have a few announcements, not too many. February 1st. Oh my God, I'm pressing the wrong button here. February 1st.
Oh, wait, Bob, remote viewing challenge.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Let me get the announcements first, and then we'll do the reveal. So February 1st is the next 3TS show, 3 Tortured Souls. We're going to be talking about time slips. Don't know what it is yet. I know what time slips are. I mean, I have an idea of what the idea behind them is, but I have to research it more to get it right, because this is definitely something that Dave will be up to date on, and I have to make sure that I can go toe to toe with him, which I probably won't. But anyway, so that, let's see. There's a couple things coming up. May 13th, I will be in Rochester, New York for the Rochester Parafest. I'm going to be setting up my Skeptical Help booth. So we'll be, and then Donna will be setting up her, maybe we're going to try to get this set up, but she's going to set up her Lucky Tiki Creations booth selling crafts. I will be the token skeptic at the paranormal conference, which will be fun because I haven't been to this conference before. Also, July 14th to 16th, we'll be in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which is a paranormal conference for a good cause. All the money goes to support Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors and kids with cancer. So really good causes, and you'll probably see me in the dunk tank making fun of everyone for charity, because that's how I roll.
Pretty entertaining.
It is entertaining.
I dunked your ass so many times last year.
You did. You totally you told me showed your love. That's all I have right now. You showed your love for me by dunking me repeatedly.
I showed my athletic ability.
So last week we did the remote viewing challenge. We put this up. So every time we do this, I put a item in this box that I don't tell anyone. No one knows except for me. Like Donna doesn't even know, because I put it in the box and lock it before anyone gets the chance to see it. So there is something still in here. You can hear it. I'm going to open it up.
Read off some of the guesses.
Some of the guesses were, let's see, we had Redman said chapstick. Bob said Skeptical Help bar pen, like a pen, writing pen. Greg said frozen dog poop. I don't know who let these people in.
I was just reading it.
There was another guess of a potato. We had Lisa said ghost hunting machine.
Yeah, ghost hunting machine.
That's kind of general.
Susan just said frog.
Susan said frog. So you have about a minute if you want to put guesses in real quick for what it is, because I have to figure out what key.
What about the ones from online?
So online, I had a guess because I did an interview that I touched on earlier with a nice young lady that I told about, and she said, "Oh, I want to put guesses in." So she did 3 guesses: a before the show, a during the show, and after the show. And her guesses were: before was a duck or something duck related. Stuffed unicorn in a pastel little girl color, like pink or purple. During the show, she said she got the impression that it was a silver, metal, and small, like a Monopoly piece. And then after the show, she guessed that it was something like a spiked white stuffed porcupine, maybe black tips. Interesting.
Huh.
That's pretty specific. And what's really fun is that I've had there's a guy, I forget his name, I apologize if he's watching. He actually started a Facebook page called Kenny's Remote Viewing Challenge, and he gets like a full-size paper, like an 8.5 by 11 paper, and he divides it into a grid, and he puts like texture, material, like if it's metallic or cloth, he puts what kind of textures on it, what kind of color, and then draws out all kinds of designs on it. The only problem is that he usually draws like 12 different things, and I'm like, dude, you get one guess. Like 12 different things on one guess.
A deck of cards.
Deck of cards, frog, remote viewing challenge. So the lock is off.
Dun,
I'm going to open it up. Here we go. You ready? What's your guess, Melanie?
I have no idea.
Use your psychic powers.
I think it's a little bouncy ball.
Bouncy balls. Oh, there you go.
Dog related.
What?
It's dog related.
Dog related. Okay, here we go.
What's in there?
It's a little Frankenstein's monster figure.
It's a Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
A mini Frankenstein.
So nobody got it right. That means the prize is safely still in my possession. And we'll wait till next time to have another one. That's fun. I love doing that. I mean, we've had one person actually get it right. And it was a complete guess. They weren't remote viewing because it like freaked me out. Like they got it right. And I was like, oh shit. But they won a prize and it was really cool.
Jay says that the four of us need to do a weekly show.
That would be interesting.
Fun.
Yeah, let me know. All right. With that, stick around for a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. Everyone else, have a great weekend.
Go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
EAGLES. Eagles.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean? What is that? Like nature preserve conservatory? What are you talking about? Eagles.
Oi.
You bird watcher?
Oi.
All right. Everyone have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.
Hey, Penny,
Yes.
Hammercock.
Ah,
Just a tip.